What's up, everyone? Tara Roberts here with Fantasy Pros, bringing you my top 10 waiver wire ads for week 16. But before we get started, we have a contest winner. And the winner of the autographed Trayvon Diggs Dallas Cowboys mini helmet courtesy of pristineauction.com is Brady Butler. Please get in touch with our customer support agents at mailbag@fantasypros.com with your mailing address and proof of your subscription to the Fantasy Pros channel, and we will get that jersey shipped out to you. Again, the winner is Brady Butler. Congratulations. And let's go ahead and get started with another giveaway. If you want a chance to win a signed Deebo Samuel 11x14 photo courtesy of our friends at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video and that's it. Make sure to turn on notifications to know when new videos drop and to find out if you've won. Now let's go ahead and dive right in. Number 10, Juwan Johnson. Welcome back, Juwan Johnson. Last time we saw Johnson was in week 12, where he scored 0 fantasy points and suffered an ankle injury. Prior to that, Johnson had 5 touchdowns weeks 7 through 11. Johnson is not a target hog. He is touchdown dependent. But that is just the risk that you have to take because the reward is fantastic with him. Johnson caught 4 of his 6 targets on Sunday for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. The only tight end with more touchdowns this season than Juwan Johnson is Travis Kelce. Johnson's upcoming matchups aren't fantastic, but a bad matchup hasn't stopped him in the past. Add Juwan Johnson. Number 9, Brock Purdy. The quarterback position has been absolutely decimated this year. Even backups are going down. Streaming quarterbacks are still at a premium, and Brock Purdy is a solid option. Purdy has had 2 passing touchdowns in each of the past 3 games. His ceiling isn't exactly high because the 49ers want to be a run-heavy team, but with an arsenal of weapons around him, he has a very safe floor. And he has 2 good upcoming matchups against the Washington Commanders and the Las Vegas Raiders. You could do a lot worse than Brock Purdy. Number 8, Tyler Allgeier. The Falcons are a run-first team, and judging from Desmond Ridder's performance on Sunday, that is not going to change anytime soon. Tyler Allgeier had the best game of his rookie year with 17 carries for 139 yards and 1 touchdown. Allgeier has been splitting time with Cordero Patterson, but this is the first time that he has outperformed Patterson. Next week is a terrible matchup as the Ravens have been strong against the run, but volume is volume. The Falcons will continue to lean heavily on the run despite a bad matchup, and if Allgeier can get the edge on Patterson again, I don't mind him as a low-end flex option. Number 7, Deon Jackson. I will preface this ad with the fact that Deon Jackson is not my top Colts player of the week. Zach Moss is also on this list, and we'll talk about him shortly. But with Jackson, despite the fact that he was out-touched and out-snapped by Moss, I think he's still worth an ad if Jonathan Taylor is out. The reason is that the Colts have an extremely run-friendly schedule to close out the fantasy playoffs. Next week, they play the Chargers, who heading into week 15 gave up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And then they face the New York Giants, who give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. They have been reeling on defense with injuries. Over the past 3 games prior to week 15, the Giants have given up an average of 195 yards on the ground. That is absolutely awful. It is very possible that the Colts shelve Taylor for the year, and I would recommend starting any and every running back that face the Giants. Number 6, Chuba Hubbard. Pittsburgh is easier to attack through the air, so this wasn't exactly an ideal matchup for Carolina running backs, so I wouldn't take Chuba Hubbard's 4 carries for 10 yards too seriously. But what I would take seriously is the fact that this is the 2nd week in a row that Hubbard has outscored Foreman. Foreman is getting the bulk of the carries, but Hubbard has been more productive, and he has also had 3 receptions in each of the past 2 games. It seems clear at this point that Foreman simply doesn't have receiving upside, and despite the fact that he is technically the lead back, Hubbard is the better fantasy option. The next 2 matchups for Carolina are more pass-friendly, and I would prefer to roster Hubbard. Number 5, KJ Osborn. Saturday's matchup between the Colts and the Vikings was absolutely insane, and I wouldn't expect that level of performance from Osborn again. 10 receptions on 16 targets for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. But the Vikings have a good matchup against the Giants this week, who have been struggling defensively with injuries. Osborn's production has been up and down and difficult to predict, but his snap count has been on the rise and he has 2 touchdowns in the past 2 games. He is a viable flex option this week in deep leagues. Number 4, Jahan Dotson. Look who is having his mini rookie breakout. Jahan Dotson has gone from games of just 1 target to re-emerging as a major threat. Prior to Washington's bye week, Dotson had 5 receptions on a season high of 9 targets for 54 yards and a touchdown. I was worried that this was more of an anomaly because this was an oddly high pass volume from Washington. But Dotson came back in week 15 with another fantastic performance of 4 receptions on 6 targets for 105 yards and a touchdown. The Commanders face San Francisco next week, and while this is not an ideal matchup, it's a good matchup for potential volume if Washington plays from behind. Dotson is definitely worthy of a roster to close out the season. Number 3, Chris Moore. Chris Moore's Week 15 performance pales in comparison to his Week 14 breakout game, but Moore still operated as the Texans' wide receiver 1 and had 9 targets. Unfortunately, he only caught 4 of those targets for 42 yards. But as long as Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins are out, Chris Moore is a weekly flex option. And the Texans have 2 very pass-friendly matchups against the Titans and the Jaguars coming up. The Texans have 0 incentive to put Cooks and Collins back into the lineup unless they are 100% healthy. We honestly might not see either of them for the remainder of the season. And if that's the case, Moore is definitely worth a roster. Number 2, Marquise Goodwin. Tyler Lockett suffered a broken hand in Week 15, and we don't have a clear picture on his timeline to return if he returns at all this season. Lockett has been a top 10 receiver this year, and the clear next man up is Marquise Goodwin. Goodwin has been a journeyman over the past 4 seasons, playing with 4 different teams, but this is already his most productive year he's had in a long time. He has had 3 double-digit fantasy point performances in PPR, and he's got an excellent matchup with Kansas City, a team that has been struggling on defense and forces you to push heavy pass volume to keep up with their offense. Goodwin could have a significant role and needs to be rostered. Number 1, Zach Moss. You could have given me 1,000 guesses, and I would have never guessed that Zach Moss would be at the top of any waiver wire list this year. But here we are in week 16, and my top waiver wire ad of the week is in fact Zach Moss. While Deon Jackson had more fantasy points because he scored the touchdown, Moss was the back with the more volume with 24 carries for 81 yards. He did have 1 target, but he failed to catch it. It might seem like a reach to put Moss as the top ad of the week, but as I mentioned before, the Colts have the Chargers next week and the Giants in week 17. Those are 2 fantastic top 10 fantasy points allowed to running backs matchups. I will absolutely swallow my pride and put in a claim for Zach Moss. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, if you want a chance to win a signed Deebo Samuel 11x14 photo courtesy of our friends at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the FantasyPros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video, and that's it. Make sure to turn on notifications to know when new videos drop and to find out if you've won.
Thanks for tuning in to the FantasyPros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at FantasyPros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.